The LA Kings and the Edmonton Oilers, round four. Ding, ding, ding. Let me just say this before we start. I hate the playoff format, but I would imagine when Gary and co cooked this thing up, this is what they wanted because they just created a rivalry that already had Gretzky history in there. But now these guys are going on round four, fourth year in a row playing each other in the first round. So in terms of the season series, LA won the season series 3-1. Pretty interesting stat. Out of the four games they played against each other this season, three of the games featured a shutout from one of the squads. So I just found that kind of odd and also unexpected. What do
They
you
also
guys
they
think?
played like twice in the last like week and a half, right?
And it got
So
chippy, yeah.
yeah, and a couple of those games were I think both of those games were without 97 and 29 in the lineup for the Oilers.
Yep, yep. So I'll tee it off and then hand it off to you, Nick. But essentially, what I would say is the big storyline, other than the history here, the Oilers are they're on the top floor of like Alberta Hospital right now. Like they got the entire lineup in Band-Aids. Who knows what's gonna happen come game one? Like it's hard to we're recording this on a Wednesday night. Game one at the earliest would be Saturday. It's hard to predict who's gonna be playing, who's not. Knobloch's not gonna give any details, but with what we know now, I would imagine most of them go. But Nick, what are your thoughts just on this series in general?
I mean, here we go again. And this is now getting to me starting to feel like what it was like when the Caps had to play the Rangers, like starting in Mac, what was that, like 2010? And then it was like 11, 12, 14, like just over and over again. And eventually it's like you've got to just get through this. If you're LA,
Yep.
eventually you have to find a way to break this down. Because Harry, like you mentioned at the start, this is the playoff format. And Bettman has said, I'm not changing the playoff format. You guys keep saying 1 through 8. We're sticking with what we got. So I don't think it's too crazy to think that we could be right back here 365 days from now and saying, oh, LA and Edmonton again, 5 years in a row. Here we go again. So, yeah, this is going to get crazy. This is going to take all of 20 seconds to get really, really chippy. I really like this LA Kings team. I've kind of started to watch a lot of their games the back half of this year. They're just a really, really fun team to watch. They are a big team, a physical team. They love to clog you up and just frustrate the shit out of you. I think they've got great depth down the middle. Guys like, you talk about it like Byfield has been incredible. I think Alex Laferriere has been one of their best players all year. And, he doesn't mind mixing it up. Kempe, Fiala have looked fantastic. Kemper in net, that's a goaltender that's won a Stanley Cup in the last 5 years. So, yeah, I really like what I see about this LA team. I mean, what else can I say about Edmonton that hasn't been said 1,000 times between the end of last year and the beginning of this one? So, it's the 97 and 29 show, and if they're healthy, it'll be great. If not, this is going to be a pretty quick series.
Yeah, I'm pretty much with Nick all across the board here. I'm big on LA. I agree, with Edmonton, it is about McDavid and Leon, but even if those guys are healthy, I say it all the time. It's just it's not my favorite team lineup wise. I think there's a lot more holes than people realize. I know they went to the Cup final last year, game 7, one win away, but yeah, I don't I don't have the Oilers fever this year or really any year. So
When did you have it?
yeah.
Speaking of Oilers fever, Harry, where are we? Harry, where are we on the Oilers this year?
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah, I'm notorious for this. So if they get Evander Kane back, which I'm reading is a possibility here come game one, he hasn't played since game seven in Florida last year. He's been out all season. So that's a pretty big uh addition to the lineup. I mean, we've seen Evander Kane in the playoffs a few seasons ago where I think he had like 14 goals or something like that. So he's very capable of performing in the postseason. The Ekholm injury is the kicker, and that's like their ace horse shutdown D man, hogs minutes, can really play physical. That is a kick in the dick to not have him available the entire round.
That's
That's
their
the
reliable defenseman. Let's be real. I mean,
Yeah, and that's the thing that I'm iffy. Usually I'd be all over Edmonton, but with that injury, I'm questioning myself. I will say this. If I've learned one thing this season, I've learned that there are lines for a reason. And Edmonton at minus 135 to win this series is screaming and begging for you to take LA. And everyone was going to do it because they're at plus money, they're plus 115. And that tells me that there's something that I don't know that they do know. And I might have to wager the Oilers. We'll see. I'm not sure.
Again.
Again, for like the fifth season in a row. Mac, what do you think?
I don't know. I definitely think like what you're saying, there's truth to it. But I almost want you to take the Oilers because then I would feel even better about the Kings winning. um,
Fair enough.
yeah, I don't know. The Ekholm thing is a big piece as well. Him not being in, I think matters a lot. It's so hard, like looking at like trying to look at like daily face-off for any of these teams right now too, because you can't tell what's a real injury, who's just sitting out because they're like a little nicked up and they want to rest for the
Right.
postseason. So it is really hard to try and like go based off of like what lineups we think each of these teams are going to shell out. But I don't know. Everything vibes wise and gut wise is telling me it's time for the Kings to exercise the demons.
The Kings just seem like so, and this is going to sound stupid, but they just seem like so much more of a team to me. Whereas like Edmonton is
Yeah.
like, okay, we've got like these five guys who are
Yes.
good and these two who are really good. But
Hmm.
then it's like, oh, wait, this isn't gym class. We need the full
Exactly.
hockey team.
Right.
I want to see a little something out of Victor Arvidsson going against his old squad. I don't think he's had a particularly great season this year. This could be a good chance for him to kind of prove himself. I do think Edmonton's a little deeper than some people are giving him credit for. I'll say this. If 97 and 29, I don't care if they're even 100%. If they're above like 80 and they're playing, I have a hard time picking against those two. And LA's good. But they're not Dallas, they're not Colorado, they're not Vegas. I don't know if those guys have what it takes to shut these guys down, but like at some point, like 4 years in a row, that's hard to do.
Right.
My biggest thing with Edmonton is I think their defense is so weak. And if there's no Ekholm, it's like really bad in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm not going to dispute that one. It's
I mean, don't get me
it's
wrong,
rough.
LA isn't like even probably a top 10 D core in the league either, in my opinion, but
But it's stable.
it's much more serviceable. Yeah.
Yeah. How do we feel about goaltending in this one? I feel like we can agree it's like forward you give to Edmonton, defense you can probably give to LA. Where do you guys stand on goaltending here?
I think obviously
Hmm.
Kemper has had a great year in LA. It's been a good fit for him for him to go back there. Big bounce back year for him after he didn't really have the best tenure in Washington. And I mean across the aisle here with the Oilers. How many times do I have to talk about
Stewie.
Hey, he made it
Cal
to game
Pickard
seven
and
last
Stuart
year.
Skinner?
He made it to game
Yay!
seven. I'm not saying he's great, but he's made it to game seven.
Good for him.
I'd probably give the edge to LA in goal,
Yeah.
if I'm being honest.
I would as well, because Kemper's won a Stanley Cup. So
Yeah, well, Stu was one game away. He was one goal away, I think, actually. But
Yeah, but
that
what do they say? Almost only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades or some shit like that.
very true.
close but no cigar, one of my favorite terms.
Hmm.
Um, I just want to ask one last question about this series. Why do I have the feeling this is going to be the chippiest one? This just scream like Evander Kane, Corey Perry, and then you've got, Byfield can mix it up. Doughty's certainly going to be mixing it up. Dano's going to be in the face of McDavid the entire series. I don't know. There's a lot of great matchups here. It screams chippy.
I agree with you, but I think maybe to segue into our next series, I can think of one Western matchup that might be a little bit more nailed.